Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamp.
We're also heading into an election. November the 7th is D-Day. The events of last week have probably rocked that quite a bit. I thought we'd have a bit of a chat with one of New Zealand's most experienced political pundits, commentators, Richard Harman. Experienced instead of old is what I said. Richard, g'day mate, welcome to the show. Appreciate your time. Is experience a good way to describe it?
There's one way of describing it, yeah.
One way of describing it, yes.
I said one way of describing it.
Yes.
Yeah, no time off for good behaviour, I tell you.
You have been watching these events for the past 50 years. I mean, quite some time, Richard. Give us a sense of last week. How does it, on the scale of things that you've seen, how did that rate?
Look, I think one way you could look at it is if at the end of the week you get Wayne Mapp and Peter Dunn telling you how you should have done it, I think you've probably got a bit of a problem. There was a veteran of one of these kind of coups I was talking to on Thursday who just said to me, look, if I'd been there, it wouldn't have been done this way. It was a shambles. It's left the government looking divided, self-centred, self-preoccupied, and quite frankly, incapable of organising a social function in a brewery.
When you say the government, don't you mean the National Party?
I do actually. You're right.
Yeah, and we have a coalition, but also just a small part of the National Party of caucus, or do you think it's wider than that?
I don't know. And I don't think we do know. I think we might have been working on a few kind of false assumptions. I think we've got to take what the ministers and MPs are saying in public and accept it. And I think if Erica Stanford says she wasn't a contender, then we have to accept that she wasn't. But having said all that, I think from what I could gather, there was a group of MPs in the middle of the caucus who were appalled at what was going on. You've got two groups or three groups in the caucus, haven't you? You've got the ministers who are always going to be, why not me? And they're always going to be looking for the next rung on the ladder. And then you've got a group down the bottom of the caucus who know that their careers are going nowhere. You can look at the caucus, the National Party list to see who they are. Unfortunately, they're all in relatively safe seats. So they're going to come back. So they don't care too much if they cause a bit of damage because one, they're not on the current promotion path anyway, and two, they're going to hold their seats. So all of that is a recipe for division and confusion and an image to the rest of the public that this is a government that doesn't know how to organise it, or a party that doesn't know how to organise itself, and they're going to pay for that.
You said in Politic, and I should have done the intro, you're the editor of the Politic website and also the editor of the fantastic early morning Politic newsletter that comes out, which I get every morning, and it is a must-read. A little bit late this morning, though, Richard. What's going on? Didn't come out till 6:30.
Click problems last night, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I tell you what, Andy, whenever I get the thing done early, I always forget to do all the right clicks for the next morning. I hope you read the offensive trades that are now legal. That, for example, it's now illegal to be able to slaughter animals in a city for purposes other than food consumption. So if you feel like sacrificing a goat, that's okay from now on.
I did glaze over that one. What I was going to say was last week when, and it was a must-read, Politic was a must-read, you made a comment and you were talking about these MPs and you said they are all, majority of them are rural MPs in safe National Party seats, rural-based, which is, and if you work backwards on that, you can just about name the lot of them, to be fair.
Well, I think they have been named. I mean, these are the malcontents. that were named by Mike, who emerged on the Mike Hosking show earlier in the year. Yeah.
They all denied it furiously, though.
They all denied it. And everyone else you talk to in the National Party caucus laughs at those denials.
So coming back to the actual coup itself, and Chris Penk was outed, obviously, by the Prime Minister as the instigator, stalking horse, kamikaze, a whole bunch of terms I hadn't actually heard of before, actually, political terms for this. And then he announced that he wasn't standing for re-election. Is it plausible to believe that he was acting alone, Richard? Is that plausible?
No. But what is plausible, I think, and might have happened, is that this was the very early stages of something, and that he was sounding out his colleagues, and we know he didn't speak to all of them, and just trying to get some idea as to whether or not there might be the numbers to go for a no confidence vote in Luxon, and that somebody decided to head this off at the pass and started leaking it. And it was the Herald broke it, but I was hearing about it on Monday night from two different sources, and one of them named Pink. Well, in fact, both of them actually named Pink. So I just wonder, we don't know, but I just wonder what really happened was that he was starting to sound people out, which is why not everybody, hadn't spoken to everybody, and somebody decided to leak it to head it off at the pass, and it just unfolded from there.
I heard about it on the Friday night, believe it or not, that there was.
I'm not surprised, Andy, because I think you and I might move in some of the same circles.
Yes, I messaged someone who we both know and said, "Is there a coup imminent?" There wasn't a reply, but yeah. So I wasn't surprised when Thomas Coughlan broke it in the Herald on Monday, because I was thinking, oh, this is coming again, which I was hoping it wouldn't, because obviously it's not going to be great. Richard, you talked about the damage. I mean, obviously Chris has come back, Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister, and said we're 100% behind. I mean, the damage is it fatal for Chris Luxon, even coming out of the election?
Well, there were people walking around Parliament last week saying, oh, well, he'll be gone by Easter next year if this doesn't work. I mean, it's very, very unstable for a government to have this happen. You expect this in opposition parties. After all, if you look at the National Party in 2020, they spent most of the year changing their leader. Labor did the same thing, the anybody but Cunliffe thing that they went through. So this can happen, but it shouldn't happen when you're in government. And if it does, it's usually disastrous. Labor rolled Geoffrey Palmer on the eve of the election in 1990 and still lost big time. National rolled Jim Bolger at the end of 97, 2 years out from the election, still lost. I think that when people vote in an election and vote for a Prime Minister, they reasonably enough expect that Prime Minister is going to do the distance. Yeah. And they wonder why it is that the caucus has decided to get rid of them. Now, it's possible, I think, some prime ministers might make such a massive stuff up that people can understand why they've been rolled. That might apply to David Lange, whose caucus was at each other's throat, etc. But I really think that in this situation, the government was going along quite well. It was even actually beginning to slightly rise in the polls. I couldn't see any immediate need to roll the Prime Minister. But obviously, MPs looked at their own positions as to whether or not they'd be back, and some of them thought it would be.
Which is interesting, because you're right. There had been a poll that had come out and shown National with a small rise. Obviously, and we're not going to have time to talk about this today, but the opportunity parties rise and where they're getting their votes from, and I don't think that's coming from the centre-right, or only a tiny little bit. So what's that going to mean? And it is a gift, isn't it? It's a gift for the opposition, because there's nothing that the public hate more than uncertainty, disunity within a party, particularly the National Party, that which could be the biggest party in government with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, look, I disagree with you on the Opportunity Party. I think the Nats themselves know that they're losing votes to Opportunity. People are not going to the Opportunity Party because of what it stands for. They're going to the Opportunity Party to say stuff you to Labour and National. And they used to do that back in the old days with social credit. No one understood what social credit stood for, but people still voted for them to send a message to the two main parties, and I think that's what's going on there. The only thing that can save the centre-right now, I think, is ACT and New Zealand First. ACT is climbing in the polls a bit. New Zealand First has fallen recently. I think they've probably even begun to address that themselves. If you look at Winston's speeches over the weekend in Blenheim and Nelson, they were quite middle of the road. There was no sort of oriental excursions in them. I think that's what if National falls, as people seem to be expecting, to around 25%, then if ACT and New Zealand First can make up that 5% between them, then the centre-right might get back, but it's going to come back pretty bloodied and pretty bruised.
All right, Richard, plenty more to come on this one. Really appreciate your time on the show. Thank you so much. We will talk again. That is Richard Harman, political commentator, editor of the Politic website. I just recommend you go and have a look at that. And if you do, please subscribe to the Politic newspaper. You will not you won't be disappointed.
Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.